welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a wonderful day. In today's video, we're going to be talking about I love to read, and over the past couple of months I've been getting back into reading. I've already read 3 books so far this year, and those are the books we're going to be talking about today. Now, I got this recommendation from another YouTuber to read. She did a whole video on Colleen Hoover books. She's read a lot of them, and she went over something about each of the books. And I picked up the 3 that she had not read just because when I read the covers, those were the books that stood up to me that I wanted to read right away. So the series that we're going to be talking about by Colleen Hoover today is called Maybe Someday. It's the Maybe Someday series. There's 3 books in it. There's the first book, Someday Maybe. There's the first book, Maybe. There's the first book, Maybe Someday. Here's the second book, Maybe Not. And the last book in the series is Maybe Now. I read these books back in February when I got sick because there was nothing for me to do and I didn't want to watch TV. And I read all 3 of these books within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks because I could not put them down. Every time I turned around, I was reading. I wasn't even really watching TV. So, Someday Maybe. This story made me cry, made me laugh, made me think about relationships and friendship, all types of situations. This is a romance book. If I'm not mistaken, this book has about 360 something pages, like I think 367. That is including the acknowledgement, but this is a love story, so if you're a romance type person, I would suggest you read this book. I'll read you the back of the book. See, here's what the back of the book looks like. There are going to be spoilers in this video. I'm not going to spoil everything for you, but there will be spoilers in this video. So if you want to read these books first and then come back to the video, I do understand. So it says, a brilliant and realistic portrayal of 2 people falling head over heels in love, complete with all the emotions and complications that accompany Maybe Someday, is exactly what new adults should be. That was a Tracy Graves quote. New York Times best-selling author. That's what she said about the book. Now here's what the back of the book. At 22 years old, Sydney is enjoying a great life. She's in college, working a steady job, in love with her wonderful boyfriend Hunter, and rooming with her best friend Tori. But everything changes when she discovers that Hunter is cheating on her, and she's forced to decide what her next move should be. Soon, Sydney finds herself captivated by a mysterious and attractive neighbor, Reed. She can't take her eyes off him or stop listening to the passionate way he plays his guitar every evening on the balcony. And there's something about Sydney that Ridge can't ignore either. They soon find themselves needing each other in more ways than one. A passionate tale of friendship, betrayal, romance, maybe someday will immerse readers in Sydney's tumultuous world from the very first page. That is true. I agree with the back of the book. I was hooked from just reading the back of the book, and then we got into the prologue, and that's where I cried. I think I cried throughout the whole entire series, but the first book really made me cry because, if I'm honest, nobody wants to be cheated on. And when Sydney got cheated on, and here comes the spoiler alert, her boyfriend Hunter cheated on her with her best friend Tori. Yes, I gave you the spoiler alert, but there's more to this story and why Hunter and Tori cheated. And then she meets Ridge. Ridge is a guitar player, but I can relate to Ridge. I can relate to Sydney too, just from the whole being cheated on thing. But Ridge is the character that I relate to the most. And here's why. Ridge is deaf. Like I said, there are going to be spoiler alerts in this. Ridge is deaf. And if you don't know or you haven't never watched me before, I have a disability called cerebral palsy. And I relate to Ridge because I know what he felt like in his situations of being judged by people before getting to know him, but having talents and sometimes people not being able to recognize your talent because, so as I was saying, I relate to Ridge because I know what it's like to have a disability and have people judge you and also be talented, but people don't want to see your talent because they're just going off of their first impression of looking at you or listening to you or whatever. But Ridge is deaf. But the amazing thing is he can play guitar. Like, he's very good. He's very talented. And Ridge is a very good guy. I'll say that. But I feel like he made some mistakes because even though he was helping Sydney out, he had a girlfriend as well, and he ended up falling in love with Sydney. I could see why he fell in love with Sydney because Sydney saw him for him. Sydney pushed him to do better, be better, and immerse himself in the world because he was more of, I'm gonna stay in the background and let people really walk all over me in the sense of, I have a girlfriend, she has an issue. You don't find out what Ridge's girlfriend's illness is until you read further in the book, and then it really goes into detail in book 3 about his girlfriend's illness. Like, you learn more, she's more present in book 3, which is maybe that. But in book 1, Ridge is dating a girl named Maggie. Maggie is also deaf. Maggie has an illness. Something happens to Maggie in this book that brings their relationship issues to the forefront. And that's all I'm going to say on that because I want you to read it for yourself. But I'll read you a little bit of the prologue. And I forgot to mention something before I read the prologue. This is a dual POV type book, and because you get one chapter of Sydney's perspective, then you get one chapter of Ridge's perspective. And I think that makes the book really interesting, that it has a dual point of view, because you get to see how both of them feel on both sides and you don't have to wonder. That's what intrigued me most when I started reading this, that I got to see Sydney's side from her breakup, how emotional she was, how she felt betrayed by her best friend and her boyfriend. She was really in love. But then I got to see how nurturing, when I read Ridge's parts in this book, I got to see how nurturing he is, how loving he is, how talented he is, and how he just wants to be seen. And for someone that he loves, his girlfriend Maggie, he's been with her for like 5 years and he really loves her, but they don't really see each other because he's deaf. Even though Maggie's deaf, Maggie uses her voice. Ridge just mostly signs. And from Maggie, her illness plays a part into how Ridge treats her. Even though he treats her well, he's always concerned if something's going to happen to her because she really doesn't have any family. She has her grandfather, her grandmother died, and her mother is gone as well. So that someday maybe. Now, if you want me to read a little bit of the prologue in the book, I'll just read you like the first page. I'll just read you the first page of the prologue. This is Sydney speaking in the first page of the prologue. I just punched a girl in the face. Not just any girl. My best friend, my room. Well as 5 minutes ago, I should call her my ex-roommate. Her nose begins bleeding almost immediately for a second. I felt bad for hitting her, but then I remembered what a lying, betraying, I can't say that word on camera, but she's a lying, betraying person she is, and it made me want to punch her again. I would have if Hunter hadn't prevented it by stepping between us. So instead, I punched him. I didn't do any damage to him, unfortunately. Not like the damage I've done to my hand. Punching someone hurts a lot worse than I imagined it would. Now that I've spent an excessive amount of time imagining how it would feel to punch people, although I am having that urge again, I stare down at my phone at an incoming text from Ridge. He's another one I like to get even with. I know, but he could have given me a heads up a little sooner. Therefore, I like to punch him too. Are you? Now Ridge is texting, and here's what Ridge says. And are you okay? Do you want to come up until it stops? Until the rain? Of course, I don't want to come up. My fist hurts enough as it is. And if I went up to Ridge's apartment, it would hurt a whole lot worse after I finish with him. Okay, so that was the first page of the prologue. So you'll understand the more you read why she's mad with Ridge, but how they fall in love is what draws. Maggie and Ridge falls in love. I'm not gonna tell you how that works or anything like that. You'll have to read for yourself. But Maggie and Ridge fall in love. There's a whole lot of emotions, physical things, and there's some other people in the book that are gonna be prominent to the story, like Tori and Hunter. Tori is Sydney's best friend. Hunter is her boyfriend. Ridge is the neighbor next door. Maggie is Ridge's girlfriend. And then there's two other people, Bridgette and Warren, which Warren is Ridge's best friend, and Bridgette is someone that Ridge took in because of his brother. So that's a little summary of Someday Maybe. I did spoil a few things for you, but I did not spoil everything. Okay, next we're gonna move on to book 2, which is Maybe. Now, you do not have to read this book because it is a novella, which is a short story, and it focuses on one character from Maybe Someday. You do not have to read this, but I highly suggest you read this after you read Maybe Someday, because this will explain how Bridgette came in the story and why Bridgette is living with Ridge and that whole. This novella focuses on Warren and Bridgette and how that all came together. You'll read about them in Maybe Someday, but this is Maybe Not. But you don't have to read this, but I highly suggest you do. It's only like 160 some pages, so you could actually read this in a day, which this took me like a day and a half to read. I'll read you the back of Maybe Not. It says, Colleen Hoover's New York Times bestseller, author of Maybe Someday, brilliantly. Colleen Hoover, the New York Times best-selling author of Maybe Someday, brilliantly brings to life the story of the wonderfully hilarious, charismatic Warren in this exciting novella, Maybe Not. Warren has the opportunity to live with a female roommate. He insisted it could be an exciting change, or maybe not, especially when that roommate is cold and seemingly calculating. Bridgette. Tensions run high and tempers flare. The two can hardly stand each other being in the same room. But Warren's theory about Bridgette, anyone who can hate with that much passion should also have the capabilities to love with that much passion. And he wants to put that theory to the test. Will Bridgette find it in herself to warm her heart to Warren and finally learn to love? Maybe, maybe not. So this focuses on Bridgette and Warren, which you meet in Someday Maybe, and why they have this back and forth sort of thing. This makes you understand. If you want to understand why Bridgette is so mean, please read Maybe Not after you read Maybe Someday, because this explains why Bridgette is so mean and why her life is so complicated. And yes, there's a whole lot of relation and love and all of that, and there's a whole lot of in this book. Do not read this book to your children. Do not read Maybe Someday to your children. This is a young adult book. So this will explain why Bridgette is so mean. This will also explain why Warren is the way he is as well, because Warren has a lot of curiosity about Bridgette. He tries to date Bridgette. He tries to do a lot of things with Bridgette. The meaner she is, the more he's intrigued by her. And you'll understand why Bridgette came to stay with Ridge. It is of Ridge's apartment. Ridge has a brother, and Ridge's brother met Bridgette. I won't tell you what the big spoiler is in this. Just read it. If you want to know what the big spoiler is, send me a DM on Instagram or just read the book for yourself. So like I said, this book is only 160 some odd pages. This is not a duo POV. Warren is seeing everything that went down in Someday Maybe through Warren's eyes, and how Warren is trying to navigate if he can fall in love, can he be in a relationship, and why does Bridgette really even matter to him? She's so mean to him, because most people would have gave up on Bridgette a long time. That's just me being 100% honest. I'm so glad they did not give up on Bridgette. But Bridgette was mean. But I do understand why. Bridgette is the classic example of hurt people hurt people. If you know what that statement means, that describes our last book in the Maybe Someday series is Maybe Now. The book has 4 points of view. We have Sydney's, Ridge, Maggie's, and then Maggie meets a doctor. Said Maggie has a condition. Not why she meets the doctor though, but Maggie has a condition, which you will learn what that is. And she meets a doctor, and you see his perspective. His name is Jake. So there's 4 points of view in this book, and like I said, this one made me cry, but this one made me happy. All of these books took me on an emotional roller coaster, let me just put it that way. But they are so good. So let me read you the back of this book. It says, this is the back of the Maybe Now book. What's more important? Friendship, loyalty, or love? Colleen Hoover and Griffin Pearson collaborate once again to bring the fans of Someday Maybe back into the musical world of Ridge Lawson and Sydney Blake and Maggie and Warren and Bridgette. This full-length novel is the follow-up to the New York Times best-selling novel Maybe Someday. This one will make you cry, so please have some tissues when you're reading this, because Maggie is the character that breaks my heart, touches my heart. Ridge, he touches my heart, but my heart also breaks for him Sydney, she's coming into her own in this Warren and Bridgette. It's like, finally y'all got y'all act together and y'all doing what's best for you. Like I said, this was very, very emotional. I will say everybody does get a happy ending in this book, but there's so much work that goes into this. In this book, Ridge and Sydney are finally together, but it's still awkward because Maggie's around, and like I said, Maggie's around because Warren and Ridge are her family. She lost a lot of her family due to her condition. And I will say this, because just because you have a condition, I do understand. Hi guys, I'm sorry about that. My camera stopped recording. My camera only has like a 30-minute limit on record time, and it stopped. So I think when it stopped, we were talking about the last book in the series, maybe now. So like I said, this whole series will have you crying, feeling happy, take you on an emotional roller coaster. This book is another POV style book, but this book is a 4-person POV style book. So in this book, you hear from Maggie's perspective, Sydney's perspective, Ridge perspective, and Jake's perspective. Jake is not in the other 2 books. He's only in maybe now. And you'll understand more about Jake and how he meets Maggie. And I'll just tell you how he met Maggie. Maggie wanted to go skydiving. So down in the comments, let me know, would you consider going skydiving, or have you been skydiving? And if you had, would you do it again? Was it fun? Me, I don't like heights, so skydiving would be a no for me. But it is very cool how he met Maggie and how their story turned out. Because if you read book 1, you know that Maggie breaks up with Ridge, and she's not looking for love, but love kind of falls in her lap. Let's see what the back of the book says. Okay, the back of the book says, what's more important, friendship, love? What's more important, friendship? Colleen Hoover and Griffin Pearson collaborate once again to bring fans of Maybe Someday back into the musical world of Ridge, Lawson, and Sydney Blake, and Maggie, and Warren, and Bridgette. So you hear from all of the previous characters with one new character added, but the point of view styles are from Sydney, Ridge, Maggie, and the new person named Jake. A little background on Jake. He's a cardiologist. He's a cardiologist that loves the thrill. Like I said, him and Maggie met skydiving. You'll have to read the rest of this to know why he falls in love with Maggie and about his previous relationship. I think Jake and Maggie were a good match. My answer would be yes, because they both learned that you fall in love and you can't help who you fall in love with. But sometimes when you fall in love, you can fall in love for all the wrong reasons, or you feel obligated to be with a person because something happened. And you see that in the first book. Friendships turn into love, but their love came, Ridge and Maggie's love came out of obligation. And in a sense, Maggie and Jake, or at least for Jake, when he was in love the first time, he was young and he got married for the right reasons but the wrong reasons, and you'll see what I mean by that. So like I said, I'm glad this book had a happy ending, but the emotional roller coaster kind of felt like I was watching a soap opera or reading a soap opera. But this series is a very good book. Colleen Hoover has written many other books that I plan on reading, and she even has one coming out in October of this year called it's either Where It Ends With Us or Where It Starts With Us, one and two. But I know it's a second book to a previous book that she has written. So I do plan on reading more Colleen Hoover books, and I do have my next set of books with me that's on my list to read that I've already start reading. One, it's by a different author. Books is by a different author. They're by Kira Cass. They came like this in this box set from Amazon. All of my books I found on Amazon. I'll link them below. And here's my next set of books, and I have one other book. This is a basically 6 series called the Selection series by Kira Cass. Wow, those books are heavy. I had to take all of them out the sleeve so I could show you one by one. One of the books got bent when I tried to stick it in the box. You just heard all the books fall on. Okay, guys, the books fell on the floor, but I'm back now. Like I said, these books are by Kira Cass. It's called the Selection series. First book is called The Selection. I just started reading this book a few days ago. It is about a selection process to get into a royal family, from what I can gather so far. So we have The Selection. Here's what the back of the book looks like, and let me read you the back of the book. For 35 girls, the selection is a chance of a lifetime. The opportunity to be swept up in a world of glittering gowns and priceless jewels, to live in a palace and compete for the heart of gorgeous Prince Maxon. But for American singer, being selected is a nightmare. It means turning her back on her secret love with Aspen, who is a caste below her, and leaving her home to enter the fierce competition for the crown she doesn't want. Then American meets Prince Maxon. Gradually, she begins to realize that her life she always dreamed may not compare to the future she never imagined. So that's book 1. It's called The Selection. Then we have book 2. It's called The Elite. Here's the back of the book. The back of the book to The Elite says, the selection begins with 35 girls. Now with the group narrowed down to the 6 elite, the competition to win the prince's heart is fiercer than ever. And America is still struggling to decide where her heart truly lies. Is it with Maxon, who could make her life a fairy tale, or with her first love, Aspen? America is desperate for more time, but the rest of the elite know exactly what they want, and America's chance to choose is about to slip away. Then book 3 from the Selection series is called The One. All these covers are so pretty. Back of the cover to The One says, the time has come for one winner to be crowned. When she was chosen to compete in the selection, America never dreamed that she would find herself anywhere close to the crown or to Prince Maxon's heart. But as the end of the competition approaches and the threats outside the palace walls grow more vigorous, America realizes just how much she stands to lose and how hard she'll have to fight for the future she wants. Then we have, those are all novels that I just showed you. But in between the novel, it is suggested that you read, which is a companion piece, and it has 4 different novellas in it, plus bonus scenes and illustration, and a bonus epilogue to the one, and more. So after you read the one, even though this isn't a novel like the first 3 books I showed you, it is recommended that you read this before you finish the last 2 books in the series. So I did have to buy this separately because I didn't know this existed till I looked it up. So I did buy this separately. The other 5 books came in a box set in one package, and then I had to order this one separately. This one's called Happily Ever After, and I love this cover too. Like, this cover is everything. It says on the back of Happily Ever After, it says, before they found their happily ever after, Amberly, Maxon, Aspen, and Marley had other stories to tell. Return to the world of the #1 New York best-selling selection series. With this enchanting collection contains the story of the prince, the guard, the queen, and the favorite. So there's 4 like mini novellas in here, plus exclusive scenes, lush illustrations, bonus epilogue to the one, and more. So I haven't even went through any of these books. Like I said, I just started reading the selection a few days ago. Then after you read that one, you jump back into the series with The Heir. And on the back of the Heir, yeah guys, my camera is having a hard time focusing, so if it looks a little blurry, it's just the camera. And for some reason, so here we have The Heir. It says, 20 years ago, our mother won the crown. Now it's Prince Edelie's turn to find true love. Princess Edelie has heard countless stories about the selection that brought her parents together. While it's a beautiful fairy tale, it's not what Edelie wants for herself. Unfortunately, she cannot escape the path laid out for her, including her very own select. Edelie doesn't expect to find love among the selected 35 eligible. Finding her own happily ever after might not be as impossible as she thought. Okay, and the last book in the series is called The Crown. A selection can only, on the back of the book it says, a selection can only have one way. A princess can only have one heart. When Edelie becomes the first princess of Ilia to hold her own selection, she didn't expect the kind of fairy tale romance her parents found 20 years ago. But sometimes love has a way of surprising you, and soon Edelie might make a choice that feels more impossible and more important than she ever imagined. Okay, all of those books sound great to me. It honestly reminds me of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and the Choices story called Royal Romance. The idea of you meeting all of these people and you have to choose one to marry and fall in love, but then you have your royal titles on the line is intriguing to me. So I can't wait to get into Kira's past books. I'm already starting on the selection. Now, let me know how you guys want me to do this. Like, do you want me to read the selection along with you? Like, come on camera, read a few pages, give you my thoughts, or just wait till the end to discuss and read a little sample of the book of how I did in this video. And if you have any good book recommendations for me that you think I would like, I'm pretty much into romance, but I will read anything because I just like to read. So I will read pretty much anything, but my favorite genres are romance and mystery. So if you have any good books for me to read, because I will be looking for my next set of books to read after I finish the selection series. I do know that I want to read more Colleen Hoover if the selection series is good. Kira Cass does have 2 new books out. It's a whole new series. So far the book only has two books in it, but if she's good, I will definitely be picking up her other 2 books with her new series as well. And Colleen Hoover has like at least 7 to 10, maybe 12, even more books that I haven't read. And like I said, she does have a book coming up in October. So if you have any book recommendations for me, leave them down in the comments. Let me know if you guys like this style of video of me telling you about the books I'm reading, or do you want me to do a read along with the books that I am reading? Let me know. Remember, I'm always thinking of you. Sending my love, and bye for now.